Hello and welcome to Possibilities, the show where we give people living with a variety of different abilities and their loved ones a space to share their lives with the world. Thank you for joining us today. And here's your host, Danny Steeves.
Thank you very much, Randy, and welcome to Possibilities. That is a brand new announcer, Randy Johnson. So thank you, Randy, for doing that. And Clara is really gonna help us out on the show. So thanks again for doing that. But today, guest is, welcome to the show, Possibilities. As Randy mentioned, I'm Danny Steeves, and I'm thrilled to be here. Today's episode is in subtitle Common Misconceptions Part 2. Because I did Part 1 a few months ago. If you remember, right? So if you want to go back to that, watch that, you can. But tonight we're going to continue with Part 2. And today's guest is Tyler Hack from Nickel, Ontario. So, a local guest here tonight. Welcome to Possibilities, Tyler.
Thanks, Danny. Excited to be here.
Yeah. A pleasure to have you. Now, Tyler is a brand a new PSW. We actually been working together for about a month now, and it's really neat to get to know him as a person. But I thought we might start out by what made you want to get into personal support work in the first place?
So, I was not in this field at all when I left high school. I was in a completely different pathway. I was going to be a business student, obviously. And I think I got the chance to work and be around people that had disabilities, and I had the chance to volunteer. And ever since I did the volunteering, I did a bit of volunteering in high school and then a bit after my high school. And after I got a chance to kind of be in the field, even just a little bit, it kind of opened my eyes towards all the possibilities. So it's something that became a natural fit for me that I wanted to get in this field. I mean, it's something that I've been doing for 3 years now at this point, almost dedicating my life to it. So it's definitely it's been good so far.
Wow, 3 years, that is awesome. I bet it has flown by for you, and you're just getting into it. Now, so what was it about volunteering in that classroom that really opened your eyes to the world of disabilities?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, obviously I volunteered a little bit in the life skills classroom, and yeah, it really did just open my eyes towards kind of the feeling of supporting someone to reach goals that they might not have had the opportunity to reach without a little bit of support. I mean, pretty much everyone in the class is completely capable of being independent. Some of them just need a little bit of that extra support. And I mean, being there to help people reach goals and form goals is obviously something that's important to me. And just helping in the community to support people who need a bit of extra help is obviously something that's really important to me. So it's kind of been a natural progression for me to want to be there to just help people to be independent and do their own goals, right? So.
And growing up, did you have the opportunity to be around people with disabilities before you volunteered or not?
Not really, actually. I don't have any. I have a great uncle who was blind, so that was like my one introduction kind of to the world of disability, and kind of you saw how he interacted and the things he had to do to kind of live his own life the way he wanted to. But my first real probably introduction to the world of disability was in high school, and even then it was kind of like a short introduction. And then after I got out of high school and got into university and college, that's been my real eye-opening introduction, where I kind of got to be and immerse myself completely in the field I'm in now. So
and we'll get back to that field in a minute here. But first I want to ask you, what was it about volunteering in that classroom? Why did you want to volunteer in that classroom in the first place? Like, if you didn't have if you weren't very familiar with people with disabilities, what interests you in that classroom opportunity?
Yeah, so I had friends in high school who were part of the life skills class, and we interacted with them every day. So they always kind of would ask us to help out, or like, and the teachers at this high school we were at kind of saw that, we would help out, and we would interact with these people every day, right? So they kind of thought it was natural for us to come in the classroom and just be volunteer and be support. So I mean, ever since they kind of, our friends who were in the life skills class had asked us if we could help out at all with their class, doing whatever they needed, like helping with just any math problems or anything like that. So I thought I was using some of my spares in high school to help out with math classes. Just, I mean, it's important to help out, obviously, and especially in the high school community, it's important for some of the students to get to learn how to properly interact with people with disabilities and how to include them, right?
And so. I don't think that they have those. Now I don't think they have those opportunities in high school anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I've been in high school a long time now, so.
So have I.
We're not as young as we used to be, though.
So have I, but we'll get back to that in a minute. So, you actually have a really neat story of you actually went through for accounting because your dad is an accountant, and then you realize that you didn't like it. So, what made you realize that you didn't like it? What?
Yeah, so yeah, I went to, and all throughout high school, I was taking business classes to try and be an accountant. I went to university for 2 full years to try and be an accountant, and I had an opportunity to kind of see what the future might look like in that field, and it's obviously a really respected field, but for me, I didn't like the idea of sitting down at a desk for the rest of my life. I like the idea of kind of moving around, getting involved in the community a little bit throughout the day. And I find that throughout the work experience I've had since then in the field of support work, it's been constant moving, it's constantly getting out in the community, and that for me is what I'm looking for in a job. It's something that keeps me excited, which desk job, I just don't think the desk job was for me.
Yeah.
It's for some people. I guess my dad really likes it, but I think I'm just more excited than him. So
Yeah, you don't really like me as a kind of person
yeah, so
sit behind the desk and crunch numbers all day long.
I don't think I could do it either.
Yeah. So, I said this question will come up later in the show, but we'll dive into it a bit here. To be honest with you, support work is primarily a female-driven
yeah,
industry.
I can attest to that.
So, why do you think that is, first of all?
I think naturally in females are just a little more of that like caring. There's a little more of that patience. I mean, in a lot of the males I know there might not be that patience to kind of work through support work, which is through no fault of their own. And a lot of the guys and males I know like to kind of do the physical labor, right? They like to get out and do the construction job, stuff like that. But for me, I'm not strong enough, obviously, to do that stuff. You can look at my muscles. But it's always been, I don't know, I think it's interesting. I think it's a field that could use a lot more males because I'm sure growing up, you've probably worked with a lot of females.
Yeah.
And I think...
I only had 2 male workers in my whole life, so I can definitely attest to it is definitely a female-driven industry.
Yeah.
Not that it's a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But I do think that a lot of males with disabilities probably enjoy kind of the guy voice. They enjoy a little bit of guy talks, right? Work through our problems together. So I think for me, it's kind of cool to be a role model, and it's cool to make those connections with a lot of the males who might not have had the chance to connect with a lot of workers in that sense. So
you are obviously going into your third and final year of the course very shortly.
that's my last semester.
But can you share a bit about your first 2 semesters? Like, it wasn't easy um, because, because due to the fact that it is a female living initially, what kind of reaction did you get when you walked in, or when you told people that you wanted to be a PSW? Were they surprised?
So, yeah, I'm going into my last semester of DSW, Developmental Services Worker at Fanshawe College. So, yeah, it was a crazy big adjustment, right? Like, you're going from a university to a college, you're going from one field to another, it's completely different. And, yeah, I mean, the first day you walk in and you kind of meet your classmates, you look around, there's definitely a lot of female faces, which, I kind of expected, but, there's definitely is a good representation of males there as well. And I mean, I think for us, some people might be a little surprised that that's the field that we kind of picked, but I think you can kind of tell which kind of people enjoy that work. So for me, it was always natural. I never worried about the reactions. So.
Do you have quite a few male people in your class, or is it mostly female?
So, if I had to guess, I would say we have about 60 people maybe in our core, which is like the people we go to class with every day. And I would say it's probably split maybe like 40 girls, 20 guys or something. So it's not like I'm the only one there. There's plenty of us, but I mean, it's definitely, you can kind of tell that we're maybe a little outnumbered, but that's to be expected, I suppose. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So.
What? When you told your parents that you wanted to be a PSW or a DSW, what did they say? What was their reaction?
I think for the most part, I don't know if they're necessarily surprised. I think that they kind of knew that maybe what I was in wasn't for me, and I think they kind of had the idea that maybe I would be more suited to do something like I'm doing now. So I think they were probably a little bit surprised because it's something I've never really done up to that point, but they knew that I had kind of volunteered and I'd had a little bit of experience in that field, and that was always something I was interested in and something that I cared about. So I don't think they were really surprised, but I think, it's always a bit of a shock to go from one extreme to kind of another extreme, right? So,
yeah.
I mean...
And this leads us perfectly into our topic for today, because male DSWs are few and far between. So, because females are generally PSWs. So I guess that you could say male PSWs is a common misconception too. So, why do you think that is? Like, why do you answered this before, I think, but I want to dive into it a bit more. Why do you think that is generally female field? Like, do you think it because the males are too I don't know what term to use.
Yeah.
But
You think they're too macho?
not so to do it, or what is your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a common misconception. And I do feel like a guy might like look at the field and say there's a lot of girls in it, so it's just not for me, right? You kind of right away you kind of write it off. But I mean, I think that's a real shame. I think this field could use a lot more male voices, and I don't really think a lot of people understand what the job entails either. I mean, sure, there's definitely parts personal care, but for the most part, there's lots of it's mostly opportunities to build community connections with people we support and help just daily life stuff, right? So I think
Great,
that part's overlooked.
great way into my next question.
I'm doing that a lot today.
Because I was gonna ask you, do you think males just have that, again, do you think males just have that common misconception that it's like, ew, personal care, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that is why they don't do it? Like,
I honestly think it's that's a big aspect of it, right? And I think that that itself is a common misconception. I mean, that's not what this job is, right? It's not, we don't do that all the time at all, right? It's
I'm sure you do it a bit.
yeah, of course, but that's just something that we do, and it's not. But I do feel like when people look at this job, they might think it's pretty much all that, and I think that that's completely false. I think
It just depends what the.
yeah, it definitely does.
It just depends what the client what if you do.
Yeah, and each individual I've worked with is vastly different. I mean, but for the most part, I would say in the jobs I've held, the most important part of my job is building community connections and finding ways that I can help increase independence with the people I support, and pretty much just having fun, right? Like that's kind of something I think. I know when we're together, I like to think we have fun, right? So that's kind of the most important part for me is making sure that I'm increasing the fun and enjoyment that people have of their days when they're with me. So whether I do that for you or not, I don't know.
So my next question. Good that you're doing this a lot today, because that follows my next question. There is a common misconception that you can't develop a personal relationship with a caregiver. Do you think that is true?
That you can't develop a personal connection with like a support worker? Yeah, I think that's definitely something that is a misconception, I feel like. I mean, there is definitely such thing as work boundaries. I think everyone understands that, but at the same time, I think building personal connections and building personal trust is important with the people you support. I mean, I handle and care with a lot of their personal lives, right? That's kind of part of the job, so it's important to build that connection, and it's important to just be natural as possible, right? Like I find that that's important.
Hard not to.
Yeah, for sure. It's very hard not to have any personal connection with people you see every day, right? So
because I know I get service from one care, in the morning, and they have this policy that you can't get too emotional, emotional, emotionally attached to your client. So, do you think that is a fair statement to make? Or
I think emotional attachment's a very subjective term. I mean, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I do think that work boundaries are a thing that should be upheld, but I also think that if you're there and talking to people every day, that you should be able to kind of have connections naturally. And I think we all kind of understand in the field what is professional and what's not professional. So, I mean, I think it's something it's hard to kind of define, but at the same time, I feel like when I'm on the work field, I know what I think is professional. I know what I think talking to the people I work with is professional, what wouldn't be. So, I mean, I think it's important to build a personal connection in order to have them trust you to, because I deal with a lot of personal life and a lot of care with people, right? So it's important that they trust the person who's doing that stuff for them.
Absolutely, because they can't, a lot of people use support, can't do the things for themselves, so you have to help them. So naturally, you do have to develop a personal relationship
I mean,
in order for them to trust you to help them with daily tasks. I mean, like you said, you do have to keep a certain rapport, but even that is hard in a small town.
Yeah, it can be, but yeah, and I mean, the same goes for everyone I kind of deal with, right? Like, I think in my personal life, I have people who deal with my stuff as well, right? Like, you have banks, stuff like that, hospitals. So I always think it's important that, you know, I want to be kind of helped by people I know and trust, right? So I'm sure the same goes for the people that I help. So.
Okay. Diving into your experience so far, what has been the most rewarding part about becoming a PSW? Because you're relatively new at this, but what has been the most rewarding part so far?
I think for me, I've seen a lot of people that I've helped support reach goals that they might not have thought ever possible, which is, you know, obviously amazing to see. I think we kind of help set goals. That's kind of one of our jobs, is to help set goals that they're interested in.
Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, in the past, on my job, I've had people who've had goals to kind of like set resumes up, right? Or just get volunteering, stuff like that. And, you know, for the most part, maybe in their lives, they just never thought that was possible because no one ever helped support them. And I think every person I've ever worked with is capable of, you know, helping out in their community. So I think it's kind of a shame to see people not think they can just because they've been told they can't, or because they had a setback. So I think for me, it's important to kind of help support people to do things they didn't think they could do because they've been told their whole lives that they couldn't, right? So I think when you see somebody reach a personal goal like that, it's always...
And why why do you think people have told them they can't do something?
Because it's really easy to tell someone they can't do something, isn't it, right? Like, I mean, that's just the easiest thing to say to somebody sometimes, which is, I think, one of the worst misconceptions that we see. But, I mean, you see it a lot that people will just tell someone they can't do it just because they personally don't see them being able to accomplish it. But if you kind of work step by step through, helping someone reach their goals, it's an easy process if you kind of have that support with you. And I think, for some people I've helped in the past or supported in the past, they just needed a little bit of a person by their side. And I think they've gone to heights that they didn't think possible. And I believe in kind of everyone I support. I think everyone I support is completely able to do, whatever volunteering, whatever kind of work they want to, as long as they have that proper resource in place to kind of help them push. So
well done.
Thank you.
What do you think society's biggest misconception is when it comes to people with disabilities?
I definitely think one of the biggest misconceptions, and I see this all the time and it really bothers me, is I feel like people without disabilities often think that every single type of diagnosis and every single type of disability, that no matter what, they have low intelligence and they're not able to, articulate or kind of think for themselves, which is just an insane misconception. I mean, I know you, I've met you, we've known each other briefly, but we've known each other good enough that I know that you are completely able to, you are very intelligent, you're completely able to do whatever you want and think whatever you want. And I think they kind of lump everyone together, right? They kind of think every disability that...
Thank you.
They just kind of think that every type of diagnosis or disability, that no matter what, their intelligence is lower than that of an average, which is completely wrong. I mean, it's... Every person with a disability has varied intelligence, and a lot of them are very, very, very smart, so...
Do you think people just assume because you have a disability that you're not smart? Or
yeah, and I think, for the most part, I think people don't... I don't think they want to be rude to people with disabilities or not include them. I just think they don't understand as well as they maybe should. I think it's just easy to kind of minimize somebody and just kind of forget and just pretend they don't exist. But at the same time, I think that even though people don't necessarily want to think that, I think it's just kind of been ingrained in society for a long time. And I think you can definitely see that switch is coming. And I mean, that's important, but I've never met people with disabilities who are completely unable to understand, right? So
coming,
we can use a lot of work, can't we?
We still have a long way to go.
We do, for sure, but I mean...
And how speaking as a support worker, how do you think we can... How can support workers change people's minds, and how can the people with the disability change people's perceptions of them, or can they?
Yeah, they absolutely can. Support workers, I think it's super important for support workers to teach, or not necessarily teach, I don't know if that's the right word, but just kind of encourage the people we support to use their voices if they're verbal, and use their voices to advocate for themselves. I think you're definitely a good example of it. You work to advocate for yourself through all kinds of different boards and all kinds of different... I couldn't even name all the stuff you do. It's absolutely insane, right? But that's important, right? Like, we can't, as a support worker, it's important to kind of advocate as well, but at the same time, we need to teach people that the people we support can advocate for themselves. They have their own voices, And it's important that we kind of encourage that advocation, and we kind of teach proper ways to do it and proper ways to get our points across, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely possible for support workers to kind of help out through the process, but I think for the most part, people with disabilities, and like you're a very good example, are great at advocating for themselves. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And I mean, if I hear your voice, I mean, that's a big thing for me, right? Hearing a support worker's voice is one thing, but hearing your voice is a completely different thing, right?
Yeah, and that is why I keep doing this show, because there is a lot of education that needs to be done
Yeah, for sure.
when it comes to people with disabilities. And not only that, speaking as a host now, because I host my own, not just anyone can host a show about disability, so I think having an actual host that has a disability host a show about disabilities can break some of the barriers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think, it wouldn't make sense for me to talk about something that I have no personal experience. I wouldn't host a show on like cars, right? I don't have any experience. I don't understand that world, right? So I think, for somebody with a disability like yourself to be able to kind of obviously show the world that you can host your own talk show is, that's the most important part, right? You're breaking that barrier by doing this. So
what are some of the other barriers that we need to break, just in your opinion?
I think you've said this one before, and I completely agree with this one, is I think that we really have to stop treating everyone with a disability like a child. I think that's something that drives you up the wall and drives me right up the wall. I think when I'm out in the community, and again, I don't think this is something that people do on purpose, but I think people are more apt to try and talk to me when I'm with somebody with a disability rather than the person with the disability, which I think is something that's, it's always going to be a barrier, right? Though I think hopefully one day society will kind of understand that talking directly to the person is the proper way to do it. And I mean, again, I don't think that's out of malice or anything. I think it's just lack of kind of education on the subject. But I mean, I'm sure you've been through the whole being treated like a child and the whole being not talked to thing. So I think that's important. That's something I advocate for. So
I hate to say this, and maybe we should talk about it on off camera, but I definitely think there's a common misconception that people treat us like a little kid, but we're not little kids. We do have something to offer the world. Yes, we do it. Yes, we do it in a different way, but we still have something to offer the world.
Well, there's no chance you're a little kid because you got your beard, you got to shave, right? So you shouldn't grow that. If you grew that out, people wouldn't think you're a kid. You should think about that.
has been your your favorite parts and your not so favorite part so far on this going through this PSW doing this.
So I'd say my favorite part has definitely been kind of meeting a varied individuals. I think I've worked with a lot of different people with a lot of different diagnoses and disabilities, and I think just learning how to kind of properly interact with all kinds of different people and how to, find ways to build relationships and find ways to make sure they're involved in their community. I mean, I think it's just interesting to meet so many different types of people and kind of figure out myself how to work with everybody in the community, right? My not so favorite part, it's kind of tough because I do enjoy it a lot, but I don't know, I'd say put me on the spot here. Tough to think. It's what a good host does, I guess. But I don't know. My not so favorite part would probably be just
or what? Let me rephrase it. So you can answer two questions at the same time.
Oh jeez, yeah, I can do that.
What is something that drives you crazy about this field? Like,
Drives me crazy about the field.
Is there a common misconception that drives you up the wall as you mentioned? But is there a few?
There's definitely a few. I mean, I think for the most part it's very good, but I do some things drive me up the wall. I mean, I think
for example, what?
For example, I think it always drives me up the wall to hear like offensive language around people with disabilities. That is something.
What kind of offensive language?
I mean, you hear lots that are really offensive. I mean, the R word is obviously something that comes up a lot, and I think it's not as prevalent as it used to be, which is obviously amazing. There's kind of that reach. You kind of see it on social media and everything. You kind of see that it's a word that just isn't. You can't use that word anymore, right? Which is the way it should be.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that I think is important. So the offensive language always is something that bothers me, and I just think that it's really easy to kind of put people with disabilities on the outskirts and just kind of bring them in when you want to.
In a box.
Yeah, for sure, and I think.
Like you said before.
Oh, actually, another good one that I just thought of now you said the box is people put everyone with a disability in the same. They think of them as the same person, right? They think their intelligences are all the same. They think their needs are all the same. Which is absolutely insane because, I mean, I'm so different from every person I've ever met. My needs and my opinions and values are a lot different than everyone else's. And it's absolutely insane that people they paint people with disabilities all with the same brush, I find. Which is, it's crazy to me, but, you have a good point.
Same excellent terminology.
You like that one?
Yeah. So how can we change that so people don't always paint people with the same brush? How can we I'm gonna revamp it a bit. How can we show people that we need to wash the paintbrush out once in a while
I like
and
that.
paint a different picture?
Oh wow, that was good.
Yeah.
I don't even have that good of terminology.
Yeah.
I guess that's why you're the host and I'm just the guest
Thank
there.
you.
But yeah, that's I think a lot of it does come from support workers. I mean, education on the subject, just kind of treating everyone we support, because I have to treat everyone I support very differently. I have to kind of cater to whatever they need, and I mean I do that with every person that I have in my personal life, whether they have a disability or not. So I think education is really important on the subject. I find that, you look at social media and you look at kind of some of the new movements that you see. I think it's important that people with disabilities are represented in those movements, that we understand that we haven't in the past treated people with disabilities with the respect that they deserve and the respect to being equal. And I find that the more we kind of educate, the more we speak up, myself as a support worker and you and everyone else with disabilities advocates for themselves, I find the more that we work with families and the more the word gets out that, we're not going to stand for not treating everyone equally but differently, if you understand what I mean, right? Because we want to treat everyone equally, but we don't want to treat everyone the exact same, to paint them with that same brush, right? So I find it's better than it probably was when we were younger, but I still think we have a lot of education to do. So
And here's another common misconception that I think people need to stop. They need to this common misconception is mostly geared towards kids, but do you ever find that when you take people out in public, that mostly kids stare at them?
mostly kids stare at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
Or just people in general.
I mean, you always notice that when you're with someone with an apparent disability, that the stares might last a little longer.
Yeah.
And I think as a kid, you just anyone who's a little bit different than you have the tendency to kind of stare at a little longer, which is a shame.
Sure,
But
even I'm guilty of doing that.
yeah, and I think a lot of people are. But I think that's it's just important to as growing up teaching younger kids that everyone in the world is different, right? So I think it's important to kind of teach that this person is different from you, but they are still respected, they're still equal, and it's important to treat them with respect. Try not to stare. I mean, as a kid that can be hard to do, obviously, but as an adult I find there to be, even in when I'm out with anybody in a wheelchair or something, I find that the stares are a little longer at you. And I'm sure you've noticed that in your life, right?
I'll talk to you more about this off camera, but before we went on camera, we went for a walk, and I noticed someone staring at me, so I was born with a disability, so I am used to it, so what I do now is just stare right back at him and not say a word.
You give him the death stare.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, like I find adults should obviously know better, right? Like I find that's a bit of a shame. That's a shame that you have to go to deal with that, but you have a pretty deathly stare, so.
What is going forward? How will you like your